Welcome to GCCM Brazil, and I'm Karine Mansour at Mansour Consultoria, and I start with Renato at Anatel.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Karine. Thank you, the organization, for inviting Anatel to be here. First of all, I would like to apologize in the name of Arthur Coimbra, our commissioner. He was supposed to be here, but he faced some issues with his agenda this afternoon in Brasilia, and he couldn't be here. First of all, my name is Renato. I am heading the granting and licensing process in Anatel. I'm responsible for all licensing station, granting authorization for service providing, and RF authorization also, things from the guy in his truck, for instance, up to the satellite guy over the sky. All authorization in Anatel is in my office. Okay, is granted in my office. So it's a pleasure to be here. Anatel is the regulatory body in Brazil. Telecommunication is the telecommunication agency responsible for all rules in the sector, all resolutions, actually, because the law is not in Anatel, of course, but we drive the sector by creating rules. Also, we are responsible for spectrum management. We also responsible for type approval equipment and the competition. And we try in Anatel. We have this this commitment to improve the sector, to guarantee to the sector that the rules are enough to maintain the players, investments, and to attend also the society anxiety for telecommunication, as this market plays a central role in our society nowadays. I'm here to try to replace our Arthur Coimbra, and I'll be happy to give you any answer in the questions that I can answer. Of course, I'm not I have not all answers, but I'm here to help you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Cristiano?
Hello. Yep, it's already on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Miriam. Thank you, everybody here in the panel, and thank you all that have spent time and are keeping up the effort by staying here with us for the next 3/4 of an hour. My name is Cristiano Ferraz. I have been working in telecommunications, in the telecommunications sector, for a very long time now. And over the last 13 years, I have been with the company called Netcon. Netcon is a Brazilian company which initially did consulting and engineering for the telecom sector, especially focused on critical mission networks for the oil and gas and for the power sectors of the economy. Later on, about 10 years after we were founded in 1995, back in 2010, we entered into a joint venture with the company, which is now called Portuguese, and created a second vertical. Our first vertical is consulting and engineering, owners engineering, construction, and such things. This second vertical is a software that controls the whole inventory of any communications and IT networks. So this is the basis on which applications are developed for the control of the network. This has become especially important over the last few years because the networks have become more and more heterogeneous. So they are not owned by one entity, but by several entities. And from the regulatory body, from the public, from large carriers, there is a need to see clearly a very up-to-date picture of how the networks are used, their own networks and the networks that interconnect with them. This platform made by a Swiss company called Portuguese, as I said, does exactly that. We can describe the whole network connections in that so that it becomes an information base containing the whole information of the physical network and the logical connections on top of it. For a company that sells connectivity, or for a company that buys connectivity, or for a company that enters into business with neutral infrastructure providers, this is a very useful tool because you can see end-to-end how your connection goes, okay? So this is a very important thing. Up to now, you had several different management systems for controlling the end-to-end connection. With this solution that we have sold in the whole American continent to many, many customers, hundreds of customers, they are able to see and operate the whole network. So this is another division of the company. And finally, we have a third division that develops software for that platform, which develops interworking of that platform with customer service, with sales, with network operations, NetOps, DevOps. All that requires the information that you can get from such a platform. So this is what we do. So develop software. We represent this software in the American continent, and we also do consulting and engineering. Moreover, as a private person, I also belong to the industry association in Rio de Janeiro, what we call here the industry union, okay, which is part of the Federation of Industries in Rio. And I belong to this, and there in our syndicate, we have about 40 large companies in the IT and telecom sector here in Rio. So this is what we do mainly. As this is a panel about interconnection and how you move in a complex world, this is why I brought that picture. If you integrate the whole infrastructure of telecommunications, data centers, cloud centers, and the networks, access networks, interconnection networks, submarine cables, satellite capability into one and only integrated database, it is much easier for you to manage that. And whatever application runs on top of those things, for example, security, okay, so cybersecurity needs to have a vision. They detect a problem, an anomaly somewhere, and then you have to refer to the whole connection that serves that point. So you can see that in such a database. Other things, for example, network performance. Sometimes you detect an anomaly in the behavior of a given customer, and you don't know exactly where that connection is routed through the network. So this is it. And sometimes it takes a long time for a customer who buys capacity to find out if that capacity is available at one company, at one carrier. If that carrier has a system like that, as many are doing right now, he is able to control the whole picture and check if there is capacity and do the engineering of the connection over one platform only, which facilitates and speeds up sales and customer support. Sometimes they even offer the customer interfaces so that he can look at what the offer is, what prices are, and do his own provisioning over the platform. This is done in order to overcome the complexity of heterogeneous networks from different providers and different technologies. Okay, so that's what we do mostly. I think there is just one more slide. Okay. And those are the function areas that we have been working with over the last almost 20 years. Okay, so this is it. So my personal vision of what is necessary to operate the networks in the future is exactly that. Integrate what you have into one big picture, which is always up to date, and then you can operate it. I mentioned at the beginning of my talk that the regulatory body is interested in that. For example, we have been talking to the Mexican Mexican regulatory body, they want to provide that view to the customers in their scheme of network neutrality. So their proposal is that they put up a system that would look at every capacity that is offered in the country so that anybody who needs connections at a given point can go to that platform and check what is available and talk to whoever is operating that part. This is rather a utopia, right? It's difficult because the players do not want to open up what they have to the regulatory body. So I have a little doubt that that won't work in the end. But many players are doing that as private companies, and they are having much success with that. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you. And Dimitri, can you?
Yes, sure. So a brief intro from my side. My name is Dimitri. I work with AB Handshake. Personally have over 15 years of experience. Originally that was in international roaming and interconnect. Now I work more on the fraud prevention and security side. So as a company, we are providing real-time services for fraud detection, fraud prevention, and what's last but not least, traffic monetization. And we do provide that on different scales, from anywhere from just software provision for these specific purposes to actually fully projects with full involvement from our team. So basically for prevention as a service.
Okay, thank you. And now you, and the last one. Okay.
Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you for GCCM giving me a chance to be here. And also my Brazilian colleagues, they invite me to traveling from Hong Kong to here. So actually, I'm from a company called China Mobile International. CMI is I would say that is the international arm for China Mobile. So we have our headquarters based in Hong Kong. We have more than 1,600 people. Almost have 40 offices, no matter they're in Asia, in Europe, in Latin America, in US and in Africa. So of course we have an office in Brazil. We have almost 20 people sitting in Brazil office. So what we are doing, actually, we have capacity. We have more than 80 T global capacity traveling between Asia, Europe, US, Latin America. We have point of presence, more than 200 point of presence, almost everywhere in the world. So we are also offering different solutions. We are offering enterprise solution. We are also offering wholesale solution. We have a brand called iConnect, mainly focusing on wholesale strategy between China Mobile and our partners. So I'm work for CMI almost 11 years. So my preliminary background are focusing on roaming development between CMI and our global partner. Now I'm more focusing on IoT development and 5G.
Okay, thank you. And now, André, represent the Nova Friburgo government. And please.
Karina, muito obrigado pelo convite. Quero parabenizar pelo evento, parabenizar aqui os participantes do painel também, todos vocês. Eu estou secretário de Ciência, Tecnologia e Inovação de Nova Friburgo, uma cidade de 200 mil habitantes no estado do Rio de Janeiro. E eu vim trazer um pouquinho da nossa história, das nossas oportunidades e dificuldades para compartilhar com os senhores. Nova Friburgo é uma cidade industrial. Nós temos hoje 40% da produção nacional têxtil, de moda, de lingerie e de fitness no nosso município. Nós temos as maiores indústrias do setor metal mecânico em Nova Friburgo. Somos responsáveis pelas grandes distribuidoras de alimentos do Estado, pois estamos exatamente no centro do Estado. Então, é uma cidade que foi a cidade que teve a primeira industrialização no estado do Rio de Janeiro. Somos de uma colônia alemã e mais 10 outras colônias. Temos mais de 200 doutores, temos universidades estaduais e federais. Com isso, entendemos que Nova Friburgo está preparada para um outro momento, para um novo momento, na verdade. E eu estou aqui com duas visões. Uma visão de como uma prefeitura, um setor público, precisa contratar e estar conectado com grandes companhias e com a inovação. E, ao mesmo tempo, também para mostrar o quanto nós estamos focando em preparar um ambiente propício para que vocês, empresários, possam estar no nosso município. Alguns exemplos. Nós temos políticas públicas como incentivos fiscais, nós temos hoje uma secretaria de desburocratização. O Renato sabe bastante dessa nossa dor aí, né, Renato, de preparar um ambiente realmente favorável para as empresas. Nós temos hoje uma implantação de uma cidade inteligente, são 220 câmeras hoje monitorando o município, todas as placas de veículos já são monitoradas por essa central. Como nós tivemos, em 2011, uma tragédia climática muito impactante, nós fazemos monitoramentos climáticos, nós temos uma integração com a Defesa Civil, e tudo isso nós dependemos diretamente de tecnologia. Então, por isso eu estou aqui. Nós, hoje, estamos combatendo o desemprego no município com a cidade inteligente. São dados, são informações, cada vez mais a gente tem informações, a gente está colhendo essas informações, transformando em ações e em benefícios. Mas, para que isso aconteça com êxito, eu preciso da participação de todos para que a gente possa evoluir nesse cenário talvez tão propício, porém com grandes desafios e dificuldades. Obrigado.
Okay, thank you. Now we know about the companies, the government, and we talk about how to interconnect now and the future, né? And which choice you started then we have. I think we compare the Latin American, Europe and Brazil, and which the connectivity is grow. When you talk about this, what do you think about the growth of the connection? How do you need the government? How do you say your company, your provider, how do you need this?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think I just mentioned that my background, I used to work for the roaming team for China Mobile. I mainly managed the roaming partnership between China Mobile and all the partners globally, more than 200 countries, 400 and more partners. So I would say that one of the key challenge, I would say that before, I think during the COVID time, I think this is a key challenge for us. I think if I'm not remember wrong, before COVID, back to 2019, we have more than 100 million travelers traveling outside from China to everywhere, including Latin America. I think during the COVID time, it's a substantially declining the I would say consumer or human traveler. But I see this is another alternative during the COVID time. We find that one of the key area, particularly for the automotive market. If you know that China right now is one of the key car manufacturer, we export car from China to global I think this is some figure. We talk about like Q1 this year. We have more than 1 million vehicle has been exported from China to everywhere in the globe. I think this is a create additional connectivity requirement, not for human, it's for machine. This is what we're seeing. This is a market trend, apart from the previously from machine connectivity, from human connectivity, move to machine connectivity. This is not only talk about each individual automotive that has a single connectivity, create a huge, substantially platform they need. Because nowadays the car is very different to the past. Now you're looking about telematics, talk about batch upgrade, talk about infotainment. So this is a huge enterprise opportunity when they're looking for a good collection platform, particularly in the Latin American market. This is what seeing the trend. But of course, we were also seeing a lot of challenge when we did deliver. Particular, for example, what I'm seeing for example, this is from the roaming side. For the Brazilian market, I think they also talk about permanent roaming. Roaming is one of the key challenge for international partner. They wanted to look for a roaming solution into Brazilian market, and also I would say data protection rules we have to follow each individual market. But I would say this is a challenge, but this is huge potentials.
Okay. And when you talk about this, I think the government is very important for this. Yes. And Renato, what do you think? What do you talk with?
Anatel, as the telecommunication authority in Brazil, has this main responsibility of ruling the game. So it's a challenge, because I do think telecommunication market is a multiplayer game. You have multiple interested sectors in the same telecommunication market. You have the consumer, you have the operator, you have the equipment providers, you have the ISP, you have, and each one has their own interests. So when we publish a rule, when we issue a resolution, we need to attend or focus on the overall interest in the public. And when I say the public, is the common interest. What is the Anatel mission? Is to force, is to improve the telecommunication in Brazil. So Brazil is a huge country. Here in Rio de Janeiro, in São Paulo, we have a reality. In Amazon, we have another reality, and we need to take into consideration all of those realities. So right now, for instance, the telecommunication objectives in Anatel, the Anatel's objectives are quite different from our objective in 1997 when Anatel was created. So by then we was interested in give to give internet not internet connection but voice connection everywhere. So the rules that was stated there by them was it's until now in force. So how do we update the rules? How do we follow the market interest changing the rules? So we have a project in Anatel right now that we are renewing these resolutions, trying to make it clear, objective, and at the same time, to giving to those that want to put money in the telecommunication market in Brazil, the confidence that their money will come back as revenue. So it's a challenge. It's not easy, and we don't have this 100% of confidence that each rule that we are changing is gonna take the effect that we wanted. So due to that, our resolutions that we propose are submitted to the public consultant, and we always want to have the feedback from the society, from the providers and the ISP, the operators, because those guys are the ones that are making the game funny. Because as user, I want internet, I want speed, I want low latency, and that all of those characters cost money. And how do we match all those game players' interests? That is our main challenge right now. Thank you.
Yes. When you do this, do you promote the competitions of the market? No, the players competitions, the companies. Okay, thank you. And when you talk about the technology and the competition, the users, how do you say about the synergy? And can you, Cristiano, and you talk about the synergy of the competitions and the connective? How do you think about the growth of the Brazil and Latam? I talk about Brazil because how do you, Renato says, Brazil we have different cultures, and the south and the north and the Rio, São Paulo is very different. And how do you think about the disconnected?
Well, independent of whatever culture, regional culture we have here, we have a pressing need for more connectivity. Connectivity is expensive. It demands infrastructure for the transport of information from one side to the other. Many economic players, a good regulation framework to work properly. But more than that, it needs a common vision and interconnection and an easier way to operate the network. So this is one of the Achilles heels of whatever capacity is today. So the time it takes to integrate offers by different players in that market. So there is a movement towards greater integration now. So the major players are automating the provisioning in their networks, the knowledge of their networks, and transparency of what's happening in the networks to the operations. So this is a major step that needs to be taken, and the industry is doing that. Without that, all the new technologies that are required for the Internet of Things or for whatever kind of machine learning, automation, artificial intelligence is not going to happen. And there is another thing that we also need, and where government action may be helpful. When the government doesn't act, the industry acts. An example is what he mentioned about the highlands of this state here. As a member of the board of the IT industry federation here in Brazil, we came up with that problem. We did not have enough developers, software developers, to meet our needs, and sometimes we had to outsource that. 5 years ago, we started in the Federation of Industries, but also with help of the municipalities in Petrópolis, Teresópolis, and Nova Friburgo. They created the 8th largest industrial high technology parks in Brazil. It's called Serratec. And we began a program that is now in its 5th year, that every year, residential, we call it IT residency. The industries provide the professors, they provide the means, and they provide the training ground, integrating those young people into the industry. Friburgo is part of that initiative, and every year we have been training 400 young people to be programmers. They start working in industry and producing now. So this is a very virtuous initiative that is moved by the industry and by the governments, by the local governments as well, and by the Federation of Industries. So
okay.
those are two things that we're doing.
Dimitri, can you compare? can you compare for us in the Latin scenario and the others, so in the Europe kind of this? Is the same? Is the difference? What do you think about the connectivity for your vision in the Latin and the other countries?
Yeah, sure. I think actually we see kind of typical trends, and kind of the trends are quite similar in the Latin region and in many other markets where we work. So the problem is that, of course, the growing demand for connectivity is a good thing. It's basically an opportunity. But an opportunity only becomes like something good and something positive for you when you can properly monetize it, when you can control it. So problem number one is like once any new service, and of course new services are appearing constantly, becomes something you can make money on, of course there will be some parties who will try to do the same thing illegally. So again, so you'll have competition, and the competition will use more easier, let's say, routes and means than you will. So it's one question is, once you see this new opportunity, how you protect that and how you make sure that kind of you will actually protect your revenues, protect your streams. Because we did have examples when companies which were instantly providing a huge portfolio of different services to the market actually implemented that without thinking even about the basic controls in place to kind of, well, safeguard that. And of course, for the Latin market, where a lot of, again, services are emerging right now as new services, and mobile services, that's a very important concern. Secondly, of course, just the sheer growth, because I sometimes see that the customers do have plans for, okay, so if things go bad, what do we do? But then if things go good, what do we do? Because will the same procedures work for you once your traffic grows 5 times? Because if you do something manually, you won't be able to do that. So it's important these times when you have this exponential growth to think ahead and to understand, okay, so if we carry on with this pace, what we do? Maybe we already start implementing something now that will help us to kind of avoid some pain growth in the future.
Okay, thank you. When you talk about we need the vision of the future. I think this in Brazil it's very now is a reality, and we talk about the smart cities, IoTs, 5G, and okay, we are starting about this topic, okay, but I think the vision in the future is grow for the another type of the connectivity. And how do you think about this?
Primeiro, eu penso que nós temos que vencer a questão das legislações locais. Vou dar um exemplo. Nós temos hoje um grande desafio. Se uma nova empresa vier para o nosso município para montar uma rede, hoje não existe espaço para a montagem dessa rede. E isso não deve ser uma realidade só local. Eu acredito que o próprio Rio de Janeiro deve ter isso, outras cidades. Então, eu penso que o primeiro passo é a gente conseguir criar legislação e projeto de curto, médio e principalmente de longo prazo, para que aí sim a gente possa iniciar, na verdade, continuar todo esse olhar pelas cidades inteligentes. Hoje, nós temos, por exemplo, um projeto onde nós, através dos dados da cidade inteligente, nós conseguimos descobrir quantas pessoas nós tínhamos desempregadas no município, quais eram as habilidades e os talentos dessas pessoas, e estamos montando curso com as universidades de capacitação voltado exatamente a essa demanda. E isso só foi capaz a gente utilizando a tecnologia, a gente utilizando a informação que nós estamos obtendo. Muitas vezes, no município, nós tínhamos dificuldade, porque nós temos ainda, né, muitos dados, e é o que fazer com esses dados. E aí o conceito da cidade inteligente ele é muito forte no sentido de ele começa a coletar as informações e, através desses dados e dessas informações, a gente cria indicadores para as tomadas de decisões. Então, eu penso que o futuro está apontado nessa direção, da legislação, das informações e da tomada de decisão.
Okay, and I see with the growth of not only the connectivity, but the 5G. Can you talk about this vision about your company?
Thank you. Okay, actually, I think maybe if you know that in China, I think the Chinese government we're pushing a lot or encourage a lot for all those operators in China for 5G. This is not operator. We also talk about a lot of enterprise, different vertical. He introduced a lot of 5G application. I think we're seeing 5G is one of our futures for Chinese market. So particularly if you look at some number, like since we launched 5G back to 4 years ago, 2019, right now you look at the 5G level coverage in China, we always turn previously 100% LTE. Now we talk about 95% 5G coverage in China. We almost turn majority of our 4G based customer into 5G. We're hitting almost 65% of our existing subscriber from previously 4G to 5G. And we also encourage a lot of enterprise. They move and transform the existing business based on the 5G technology. We will talk about digital transformations. So we see this as a huge potential. We see this as a huge potential to monetize from 5G. We see, for example, we're also seeing one of the potential in Brazil. I think particular Brazil is a huge country, huge market. But what I'm seeing existing, the network coverage, maybe only focusing on a couple of major cities. We see this as huge potential for China Mobile. It's one of a partner we can invest into this market. So particular what we nowadays we talk about private network, no matter from 4G and 5G. This is one of the key areas. We wanted to do it in Brazil, but we also need Brazilian government talk about like a spectrum and many other things. So we're seeing this as a huge potential here, but we also see a lot of challenge in this market.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. In Brazil, some places is not have connectivity and 5G, 4G. You don't have, okay, in some parts, yes. And Renato, can you compare this China scenario with Brazil for us?
I think I do. I can compare a little bit because Brazil and China, it's they both of them are really huge countries with a stunning population. No, China is much bigger than Brazil, but we are comparable. China, in my point of view, it's a little bit ahead of Brazil. They started 5G earlier than Brazil, and we are looking for the China scenario, trying to study what they have done and learn with them, and try to impose some solutions here in Brazil. For instance, on private network, for instance, we are starting right now. We in the area I work, for instance, we develop the system to whoever is interested in asking frequency for private usage. They can ask without the need to participate in the auction, for instance. They can just, because if you are in your private area, with who do you need to coordinate? It's your area. For instance, a farm, a big farm. What do I need to ask that farm guy to coordinate with another guys inside their own farm? Doesn't make sense. So if you want, ask to Anatel. We will give you in secondary base the some frequencies, not all frequencies for sure. But we have, for instance, 3.7 to 3.8 gigahertz. That it's a 5G band, a very important one. That it's there. You just need to surround your area using mouse. Click on the point that defines your area, and since the area is a private area, we give you guys a secondary base authorization to use on that area. It's a private authorization. It's not a collective authorization as telephone, for instance, mobile authorization, and it's not primary base. Other important thing that we are doing, it's helping and force we because the RF, it's a public and scarce resource, but that doesn't mean that it should not be used. It's on the contrary, it should be used in an efficient way. So it's up to us to organize the usage of the RF. So everybody is interested on 700 megahertz, for instance. Everybody is interested. So we have the sector there that does the spectrum management, and okay, those part of the spectrum is dedicated for primary usage. This small part is dedicated for secondary use. So we have the first block from 703 up to 708, for instance, that for some regions we are giving on secondary base. The same way so we have agricultural companies asking for 700 megahertz. We have 2.3 gigahertz also, some bands that we are giving on secondary base, and all of those bands we have technologies that are affordable, and that is used worldwide. And here in Brazil we are with this movement trying to force. Okay, if there is no one, there is no primary based authorization, so let's give it on secondary base. It's very cheap, actually, because for instance, on 5G, on 4G we raised something close to 7 billion reais. It's $1.5 billion on 4G auction. On 5G auction, we raised something close to 48 billion with commitments, not money in the government account. And all of those values shows that the spectrum it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So but there is people interested on invest in Brazil, and there are also people that doesn't have that money but wants to give interconnection, give internet where the bigger one doesn't want to go. So I do think that China has this same issue. Brazil has the issue of areas that there is no economic interest there, but there is small players there that could do the job. Okay.
Okay.
I think.
The panel is the end, but any questions about these topics and for Anatel, for our companies? Any questions? No?
They may ask the question in Portuguese as well, right?
Yes, no problem. We have a translator here. No questions? Okay. Thank you so much for GCCM, for you, and bye-bye.